Hey up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the third and final chat here on Loose Lips of Today. Now, we're back. This is the third series. So, with it being the third series, what I wanted to do is I wanted to celebrate Glastonbury over the weekend. Just gone, Glastonbury would have been, but of course, due to lockdown, it wasn't. Well, it was, Glastonbury, BBC, they were showing some of their best, iconic, incredible, spectacular, any other synonyms I can throw in there. Now, just amazing moments that stand out from Glastonbury, and it got me, like, I'm not gonna lie, I thought I'd done well with, like, masking, not being able to go to the best place on the planet, potentially in the universe. And yeah, it hit me. So, I knew I'd be doing like a show to celebrate Glastonbury. So I'm grateful for the guest that I've had today, which was Danielle Moore, who's lead singer of Crazy P. And we spoke about Glastonbury as well as about the early origins of Crazy P. And we got stuck into the music, a real cool chat. And then as well as that, what I did is I spoke with Jay Brown, who works around the Westholtz staff and security, and he gave us a real good insight behind the scenes of how the festival, their side anyway, up at Westholtz, comes together and makes a run of it throughout the festival. Now, right now, I'm going to be waiting for my boy Gab, who's the lead singer of Jagwar. He's also done his solo projects as well. He's just coming into the group. So as soon as he sends me the request, we'll be chatting about the times he's played Glasto and then also life out in LA, man. It's good to catch up with my boy. He's just sent the request, so let's see how we get on. Yeah! How are you, bro? You good?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm blessed, right? Before we get fully rolling, I've got a little surprise. I did it for Jono. I'll do it for you as well. Little cheeky. Do do do.
Oh, no way. There it
Still
is.
repping, mate. Still repping.
That's cool.
So
Nice. It's an
I can
oldie
take
now.
this jacket off now. That's been the big reveal all day. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
boy. Oh, man, I haven't seen one of those in a while. It looks sick.
That's what I do, mate. I bring the nostalgia.
Yeah, fully. Fully.
How are you,
Um,
man? How's LA?
yeah, I'm good. I'm good. LA is obviously, yeah, it's been an interesting like 6 months, but it's good. I mean, the sun's shining. There's the primal things are all pretty good, but there's like, yeah, it's interesting.
Was that one of the reasons up sticks from London to capture the sun, recapture the sun?
I think so, yeah. Like primarily, I've been living in London for like 6 years. It had been like a long time, so I was like, yeah, ready to do something else. You know what I mean? Like, but I did love London, and I miss the UK, especially now. It's like I think a lot of people, that were sort of lucky to be able to travel a lot are just like, I don't know, hanging out. I'm dying to get back there, but no, it's good to be here. Yeah, I like it here.
What's the scene like?
Um, the scene. Well, you mean like music
Yeah,
stuff
the
or?
music scene.
Yeah,
Is
it's
it quite
good.
bohemian? Do you get to like roll into other musicians and artists?
Yeah, there's lots of, like the first few weeks that when you settle down here, you start realizing that, seeing people that you might know in bands and stuff is like a very common sort of thing. There's lots of, there's obviously the kind of, I guess the glitz and glamour and all of those kinds of things that people associate with LA. But then I don't know, there's like just normal. There's good bands and there's like amazing studios here. I think that's what's really sick is like there's just these amazing like historic studios. Like this guy, Ite Shapiro, who worked on my record, he's got a studio in East LA, and it was like the one of the Earth, Wind and Fire studios. So it was just like it was a good vibe. It was
Could
very
you
cool.
feel the energy when you went in?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's definitely it's palpable, and there was like all of these like old candles and stuff that had just like melted kind of almost into the floor, and like that was good. I mean, there's heaps of that. There's lots of old school stuff. But I think, you know, like any city, things change so much, and like, I mean, even like what's happened now, I think is changing, you know, changing a lot of stuff about the city. But it's probably for as a good thing, you know what I mean? Like, so it's all good.
Did you, when you knew you were making the full album, so away from the EP, and you thought you were making the album, was that one of the main reasons why you moved out there then? Fresh perspective? Or had you written a lot while you'd been over here?
Well, I worked on. You're talking with the golf stuff?
Yeah, mate, the
Yeah,
Golf,
yeah,
Alpha, Bravo.
yeah. So the golf stuff basically, it kind of started about a year and a half ago, maybe actually a bit longer. 2018 was the first. That was the first show, and I kind of had the songs. But even that show, like the songs, I played them all kind of differently, and we're just sort of just getting it together. And it was sort of around the time that we played this festival in Tasmania called Dark Mofo, and then which was really fun, and it was like epic kind of Tasmanian, like middle of winter sort of thing. And Tasmania is like far south enough that it also almost feels a bit like Antarctic, you know. Like literally, like there's like the Antarctic like ice, and like penguins turn up and stuff.
It's just over the way, isn't it?
So
It's not too far
that's
from
where
it.
like that's where people dock to like go to Antarctica if they want to go. So that was kind of interesting, like a crazy interesting festival, and it was pretty fun. But sort of shortly after that, you know, Jono had this sort of the illness, which I won't. It's sort of his stuff, but he got really sick, and it wasn't the first time that had happened, and so we just sort of thought, okay, well, we need to sort of like reevaluate. And so that's when I sort of thought, well, I can't just sit around and be depressed. I've got to try and do something, like get it together. And I just sort of thought of like these songs that I had that like were probably more on the like guitar music side of things, you know. And then just, you know, you just like piece things bit by bit, you know. But I also think, you know, I don't really think in terms of them being super related. Like, you know, Jagwar like is its own sort of thing, and like what I do in that band and the whole relationship with that, like it's its own little kind of entity. And I kind of, you know, I'm very proud of like what we did in that band, and it just kind of exists like as it is, you know, like and then it's like, I don't know, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, you know, like you know, it's like they're like different things, you know. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, we like Jono and I speak probably not like every day, but like pretty often. You know, we're always sort of chatting away, sending memes. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't know what will happen in the future, but it's been it's been fun. You know.
I'm here to play matchmaker, but we're not here to focus on Jagwar at the minute. But I am going to play matchmaker. That is my key. That is what I do. I'm the middleman, and I'm going to. Well, anyway, we'll move on. But no, when you first show in England, you blessed, bro. You got me a DJ. So
Yeah.
So I saw the early sides of the record, and like the sound as well. It's proper surf, really like bluesy. It almost feels like it's like that the jam of like Back to the Future.
Yeah, right.
Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
like,
well, I love, you know, I've always loved like just really basic guitar music. I don't know, I like it when things feel spacious, and I wanted to kind of just create something that really felt like what's the word? Like kind of native to me in a way, you know, like it was like I did grow up on the coast, and I spent a lot of my life on the beach and surfing, and same, you know, even in Jagwar, like that sort of, I think that came through. It was sort of like a very summer band, you know, and I think that's like, I don't know, I think that's just that it's like it's your culture, you know what I mean? Like if that's who you are, like that's your culture, you know. And yeah, so that was it's not really a very premeditated thing. Like I'm just doing what feels right to me, you know.
just feeling it out and figuring it out.
That's
Are
it.
you
Yeah.
are you the original TV show Twin Peaks? Are you a fan of Twin Peaks?
Oh yeah, well, God, yeah, I haven't watched it in like years and years and years, but I remember in high school, like we all watched it. Yeah,
It
it's
has a, it
good.
has a, it has a, it has a Twin Peaks in, like the spacing. I find like
Yeah,
the space between is very like, I don't know. I could imagine scenes from Twin Peaks as
yeah,
Audrey's like. There's a bit that sound like that reminded me of Audrey's bit as she came. I was like, I wonder if there's like that element there as well.
yeah. Well, I know. Do you remember that movie Fire Walk with Me? That was like the prequel
Oh
movie.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and there's that One-Eyed Jack scene, which is like that really, really long scene. It goes for like 16 minutes. It's kind of like a lot happens in the scene. I don't know if you, but the music in that is really kind of sick. I have a feeling maybe like because Chris Isaac is in that, and I really like Chris Isaac. Like he's kind of like he's kind of a dork, but he's kind of amazing. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like proper. I'm really into my dad rock at the moment. It's it's really bad. Like I was like talking the other day with my girlfriend about
Shout out Mel.
yeah, I know um about Eric Clapton. You know that like the '90s unplugged Eric Clapton album.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Mate,
like
that's the Tears from Heaven cover, and he does in
yeah,
that. Cool.
yeah.
If you're not welling up at that, you've not got a soul.
Man, it's so good. And I hadn't listened to it in like 10 years, 15 years. And I was like, I put it on and I was like, this is actually so good. And it just felt like, I don't know, you know, when you listen to music and it feels like what you want to hear at that time, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
And he dresses like a dad. I think that's the funniest thing. He's like, he just wears like, he's got like the sneens and like t-shirt, but then he's just like shredding on the guitar. I find it really funny. But it's
Yeah,
good. Yeah, he's good. I love
he's
it.
like full time guitar player, part time like home maths teacher. Like
Yeah.
like if you had to go do like some homeschooling and Eric Clapton turned up to you, like, and you didn't know it was Eric Clapton, you'd be like, yeah, you can teach maths.
Yeah, he can teach math, or he's also like your guitar teacher. You know,
That
he's
would be
got that
sick.
like he's got like a guitar teacher, sort of like his glasses and stuff. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's like yeah,
No,
Twin
because
Peaks.
that's because I was vibing and right, my favorite tune is Night Glow Drip.
Oh yeah.
That's the vibe. That's the vibe. And
Oh thanks.
it's
Yeah.
funny you said before like Earth, Wind and Fire because that had a stripped back like fatback band vibe.
Oh
You know, like
right.
dun 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 dun. Dun. I was like grooving, man. That was groovy.
Oh yeah. Well, that one. So I had like a demo of that on like a drum machine, and it was like this sort of like boom 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 sha boom boom sha boom 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 boom, and I think it might have like come sort of from like The Cure. I was listening to a lot of Disintegration at the time, which is also a really sick record that I've been feeling really nostalgic about, and and then I sort of like had this demo, and I think I recorded it like 3 or 4 different times, and then I was like, oh, this needs like just needs like one other element, and so yeah, that was kind of where the bass. I was like, okay, let's take this bad boy for a walk. I think I
Yeah,
also
yeah.
just got my bass as well, so I was like
Was you out in
very
LA when you did
sorry.
that one? Was you out in LA? Because it feels very like I'm not going
So
to say
the
Dr. Dre-esque, but you know that it feels like it has that like LA sound.
yeah, so the first like live sessions that we did, we actually did it in Hackney, with Shooter Shinoda. Shout out Shooter. And he's got an amazing studio in Hackney, and it's got a really good vibe, and it's got this little without like it's got a Neve desk, which is like it's only like a sort of like I think 16 channel sort of Neve, which is all you need. And we did everything on the record is actually live, so like the guitar and the drums, because my man Dave played on the drums, and so we did it like on tape, on in takes, which was very different to like even the Jagwar stuff, where we would kind of like have these like raga like esque sessions where we'd like work on something for like 4 hours. But this was different because we would do it in takes, so it was literally like 1, 2, 3, bang, and then we just try and nail it and not really fuck with it once it was actually on the tape, you know. So there's kind of mistakes and there's all that kind of stuff, but I really wanted to do like a live record because I was listening to a lot of like, I don't know, Little Richard stuff, and even Chuck Berry, and like how, you know, when Chuck Berry does guitar solos, you can literally hear the microphone just being slightly moved to his amplifier. So it's like the solo just sticks out in the mix. So we were very kind of like, I was into that sort of vibe. But then obviously recording in that way, like you do need to somehow make it make sense for like 2020.
Yeah.
So I did do like a fair amount of mixing out here in LA. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, LA, and I've been coming out here since, I don't know, since forever. Since I was a kid. Even with like my parents and stuff. And so it's always, it feels kind of similar to Australia in some ways. I mean, maybe actually that's not true because actually it's really different. But maybe, I don't know, somewhere between like the UK and Sydney, LA, I don't know. There's a correlation for me in my life. Yeah. Maybe that comes through in the music. I don't know.
I think probably last time I got to see you after we saw Tame at Citadel, and we were in that pub and we were speaking, and one of the things that always sticks out when we chat, obviously we always get deep, but one of the things that you said was like how you it's more like the Sam Cooke era of singer, that you know, sorry? It's more like the era of singers like Sam Cooke.
Oh, yeah.
Who really like stoke your like fire and, you know, get your soul going. And I was like, no way. I was like, and then you know, when I listen back and I see that now.
Well, I feel like, I mean, by the time music, I mean, and I'm like, this is just my opinion, and like, I'm not a music like academic or anything. I'm sure other people would have a lot more informed views on it. But I feel like a lot of the stuff that, like, I feel like the late 50s and like the early 60s, like that sort of decade, if you think of it as a decade, it is like really, really interesting. I think that even some books and stuff I've read, but you know, by the time it gets to your psychedelic eras and the paisley and all of the color, it's kind of like that's the bouquet, but it's not the roots, you know. And you know what I mean?
That's like deep, yeah.
And the roots are always far more interesting. And obviously, I mean, Sam Cooke, like I think he's a total genius. Like, he wrote all of his own songs, and he has this really distinct style. And I think the most beautiful thing about it for me is like his optimism. You know, he's just like eternally optimistic. And I mean, especially now.
Yeah,
it's like, it's really important, and I don't know, it's beautiful, and there's some elements of it that I might not ever fully be able to like understand, but at the same time I can, like, you know, I can feel it, you know, and I love that feeling. Yeah, and I think you know, any music that you do, it's like sort of reflects your vision of life. You know, you always have like a world view, and I think that it's just so, you know, we know historically like how much shit someone like Sam Cooke would have had to go through, and like, and eventually, you know, things ended in tragic ways, like in a tragic way, but his whole legacy is just so beautiful, and like, I don't know, I think it's really cool. You know, I find him very inspiring and, you know, incredibly humbling in a way. You know, yeah.
Yeah, when you said that, well, I was like, yeah, man, he's proper. You shocked me, but I love the fact that he's gone back that way, and that metaphor that you gave about, you know, the paisley, but going to the roots. That's you, man. You are a deep brother.
Well, I think in terms of flowers, yeah, just always thinking in terms of flowers. But yeah, no, he's great, and I think a lot of people, if you want to, you know, if you understanding like songwriting, and if you want to like kind of write songs like stuff that's, you know, came out in the late 60s, for example, you've got to kind of not only listen to those cats, but listen to the cats that they listen to. And often it is like, you know, it's people like Sam Cooke and Little Richard and all that kind of thing. So yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's true, man. I don't think enough people do it. Like, obviously, with me and my stand-up, I like to see the family trees. I like to take it all the way back, because then I like to see how the people that I like have taken off them and put it in their way. But you still got to go all the way back, like you say, man. I think as well, it adds more substance to what you're actually performing and creating. It's like it's almost like you're not just going. It's like a toffee apple. You're not just eating the outer, you know. You're eating the whole thing. There, that's my metaphor.
Nice. Toffee apple. I haven't had a toffee apple in ages, but yeah,
nostalgia. That's what I do, brother. That's what I'm saying. I'm the king of nostalgia. Just bringing you nostalgia.
But I get that. I get what you're saying with comedy. I mean, comedy's the same thing. It has like this amazing lineage, and it's always really fun to like. Have you been watching the Comedians in Cars? Do you watch that show?
No. Is that with Jerry Seinfeld?
Yeah.
Is it worth watching?
The Eddie Murphy one is actually like, it's so funny because, you know, he kind of became a little bit sort of reclusive in a way. Like he doesn't really interview much, and that one is so funny. They're like, this is funny because we're doing an interview about an interview. This is like, like interview inception.
That's how meta we've got.
Yeah, exactly. What is he talking? He says like he's talking about Mike Tyson, and they're talking about how like Mike Tyson had this sense of showmanship, like how he has this like incredible sense of showmanship, and it's really funny. It's like these two comedic giants, like looking at it like a boxer and just being like, this guy's so good. And they're talking about he did like a musical, and Seinfeld's like, did you see the musical? And Eddie Murphy's like, yeah, I did. And he's like, and it was shockingly good.
Mike Tyson did a...
Yeah. Mike Tyson did a musical, apparently, like a Broadway show. And apparently it's actually really good. So...
I know he did stand-up as well. Do you know Mike Tyson's a G? Obviously, he's like he's rocking it with his weed farm and everything like that. He's gone full circle. He seems like he's properly zen.
Yeah. Well, maybe he punched out all of his like anger or something. I don't know. But I actually heard that he was returning to fighting.
It's DMT. He's massively on the DMTs and San Pedro, 100%. So he keeps speaking with Joe Rogan about it, and then I think he explained it to Joe Rogan that felt like a former life, because people were getting him to fight, and obviously he had to fight all the time, and then when everything was taken away, he just wanted peace. So obviously found the psychedelics, got super in touch with nature, and like found himself, and now I think he wants to fight for the right reasons because it's inside him. It's not that people are controlling him, which is cool, man.
Yeah, that is cool. That's cool. I should like, do some more Mike Tyson research, because the last thing I haven't really thought about Mike Tyson since like maybe the late 90s, when I remember he bit that guy's ear off.
Van der Holyfield's ear. But you should maybe do an EP. The Mike Tyson, call it heavy hitting.
Heavy hitters. Heavy hitting. Yeah, that'd be good.
But bringing it back to the Golf Alpha Bravo, I love saying it. I love phonetics. But you know, when I first heard it, I didn't get it, and then I was like, it's phonetics, and then I buzzed. It was like a layered piece of like Golf Alpha Bravo. Yeah, I get it, mate. I get it. I was like, I get it. Do you know actually what made me get it? Was the full stops in your Insta handle. Like, just saying it, I didn't get it. And I was like, why is it? I was like, So, little layered clues. But was the some form of pressure? Did you feel any pressure because of the, obviously, success of Jagwar and then stepping out on your own? Did you feel like there were a bit of a spotlight on it? And also, how have you found the response and reception to your material?
Yeah, I mean, it's been good. I didn't really feel any pressure, because I sort of knew, I just don't really make that kind of connection. Like, I just sort of think one thing is, you know, like I said, it's like that exists in its own way, and then this I'm gonna do a little bit differently. And I think, and also it's like, you know, you do it, you're doing it for yourself, you know, like it's not, well, I think you sort of start in that way, I guess, just like, I'm gonna just output this. And it was like, I think I was kind of at that point kind of dying to like do something as well. So I just was like, sick, you know, I don't care if people hate this, but this is important to me, so I'm just gonna go for it, you know. But you know, having said that, I feel like I mean, I get little messages and stuff from people, and yeah, I mean, I try not to think too much about it, and I try not to even like represent it in a way, you know. But yeah, I think people are kind of digging it, and I'm glad that I chose to put the record out when I did, because obviously, well, I kind of delayed things like a week or so, because I was just like, oh, this is like, really, there's a lot that's happening right now. But you know, I know that had I sort of done it with like a label and stuff like that, that they would have most likely said, oh, wait until this Corona thing, you know, doesn't happen, you know, it sort of passes and you can sort of release it in 3 or 4 months. And I know that that would just kind of have driven me insane, you know. So I'm glad that, you know, and I know like some people I can like they get very kind of righteous about like, oh, I hope my music brings comfort to people in this trying time, and like all that sort of shit. And I just sort of think, well, I don't really feel that way, but at the same time, I've had messages from people kind of saying that, and so that's, you know, yeah, it's cool.
Is it fully independent then, this?
Yeah, yeah, and self-release. Yeah.
Where is it? You get a lighter for that, mate. That is a lighter. Not just any lighter, streets lighter. That's how you know it's a proper lighter. Fully independent.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the label that did the Jagwar stuff, Mum and Pup, or the US label, they helped me with with 2 of the tracks, Groove Baby Groove and Blue Wave. Like they just, because I didn't, you know, at the time I wasn't fully across like how to put stuff on Spotify. You know what I mean? Like I was just kind of living in the Stone Age. But yeah, they sort of like helped and did a bit of stuff on that, and then after that, I sort of just took the reins. Yeah.
Have you found it liberating then, like you say, not having anybody sort of come in and go, well, we think, and just an extra like added,
Yeah, I mean,
not needed pointers?
To be fair, the labels that we had with Jagwar were always pretty like vibey, actually. You know, that they were always pretty like kind of passive and let us kind of do what we wanted to do. I think they trusted us, and you know, Jono and I were obviously spent a lot of time talking about what we thought was cool and what we thought might not be as cool, kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, yeah, you've got that sort of freedom, and then, you know, freedom obviously comes like there's sort of a burden with that as well, and that's like trying to keep shit cool, because there's another thing, there's a lot of faux pas that people make when they're like doing a solo record, and I was pretty conscious of like not falling into those like faux pas, you know.
What do you have any examples or?
Well, I think you can just like it can just get a little bit gross, like it can seem like really maybe like egotistical, or like it can also end up feeling like a watered down like version of a band that you were doing. And I mean, that was kind of, you know, one of the reasons why I kind of moved away from the electronic stuff, was because like, you know, that was never what I did in Jagwar, and I didn't want to be like, oh well, I can do that, you know, because I know what my strengths are, you know. So yeah, like, you know, there were just sort of like things I wanted to make sure I got right, you know, on my first record. And when you're thinking about those sort of things, that sort of takes precedence over, is this going to be successful or not? You know, you just sort of think, oh, I just want to do something cool and do something good, and then hopefully, or, you know, chances are people will, you know, pick up on it, you know. I always think that it's like, you know, not that I would ever pretend to like give advice, but there are some, like when we play shows, there's like, you know, kind of younger kids that start out and they might be like sort of 18, and they're sort of asking for advice, and I always sort of think that it's like you're a cool kid, just make cool shit, you know, and it's everyone else's job to find you, you know. Of course, like, don't, like, you know, hide in a cave and not put it out, but like, you sort of don't have to be that conscious of, like, or that sort of concerned that you're not going to be discovered, you know what I mean? Because if your shit's cool, then someone probably will, you know, and that's up to them. Yeah.
And I think, like, when you're a true creative, for me, it's such a paradox, because it's like, it's one of the most selfful and selfishest things that I ever do, because I'm creating from a place for me, because if I'm trying to guess what everybody likes, then I'm going to fall. So I just make what I love, but then once people grasp it in their own way, then that's when it becomes selfful, because it's like, wow, like, they get it, they've interpreted it their own way, and it takes its own life. And it's almost like, here's another analogy, it's like a balloon, you know, a little kid with a balloon, like that Banksy balloon, and you just let it off, and it's like, right, it's the world's now, like, whatever it is, like, I set it off how I wanted.
Totally. Well, yeah, I mean, like, you just output. I mean, and there's always that thing, like, you know, you kind of you might agonize over things or whatever, right up until like the last minute, and then you put it out, and then it's just out, you know, and then what is going to happen, you sort of have no idea. And there's always this random element. I remember, you know, even with Jagwar, like, when tracks would get picked up for something, and it all seems like it makes a lot of sense in retrospect, but it was all pretty random at the time, you know, like, and even the same with this, like, I found out one of the tracks, Rainbow Island, made it onto like a Spotify like playlist, which is when you're sort of, you know, in that like independent thing, it's like, it's a real get kind of thing. But it was Rainbow Island, which is funny because it's not any of the singles. And then I sort of thought, oh, but it's also like Pride Week. And I was like, Rainbow Island, it's like, I didn't even think of like that sort of, you know, the planets lining up in that way. So there's always kind of random shit. And yeah, so I've been proven wrong so many times, like, of like things that I thought, you know, were sort of commercially viable versus things that I think are really not. And actually what you realize is that definition is like constantly evolving, it's constantly changing. So you can't really, you know, you really can't sort of predict it. It's like trying to predict the stock market or something. And so the best thing you can do is just make cool shit.
Trust your own taste, isn't it? That's exactly it. Just trust your own taste.
It's almost like a scientific, like, that's the best option, is just to make cool stuff and try and make cool stuff, you know.
It's for me, like, it's the only option, because it's the only thing that you can do. Is like, you can't, like we were saying before, there's a lot of inspirations and influences completely, but for me, like, creativity is articulating or it's expressing the unknown, and it's like, it's expressing a world that you want people to see through your eyes and get it. So, like, everybody's got access to absolutely everything, but it's what frequency or how we view the world or take the world in, or our experiences, that then we're trying to like summarize in form of music or stand-up or writing or sketches or art or whatever. We're basically, we're the palette, and we're like putting that back out there so people can then take that and then do the same with them.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, you just outputting vibes. I don't know. I mean,
I'm like Cyclops. Like, I always thought I was Gambit. No, I am Gambit. Gambit does vibe. I don't know if you're into X-Men, but Gambit's
I remember
like,
Gambit. Yeah.
Yeah, mate. So Gambit is like the electric. He's like, yeah, with the cards, but he charges the card. So he's like, he's an energy charger. I am Gambit. I'll take that back. I did my own head in there with Cyclops. I was like, even in a joke, I couldn't accept being Cyclops. I think he's too bossy.
Yeah, he's a bit too alpha. the
Yeah, man.
alpha male. But yeah, no, I definitely think that I remember seeing this Jimi Hendrix, like, there's not many Jimi Hendrix interviews, but I saw like one, and he said something along the lines of like, I can't like really communicate with words everything that I want to communicate, so I do it with music, and I totally understand that. Like sometimes I feel a bit like on the spectrum when I'm trying to communicate things that feel almost like very esoteric, and they're like feelings or like sentiments or something like that, and then yeah, and I can just find it in music, and it feels good. That Nightglow Drip was a very like feel driven track, you know. I really wanted, yeah, it's a vibe more than, and it has sort of, there's a story in the lyrics and stuff, but like, yeah, I really wanted, like the drums, I really wanted it to have a certain feel to it, you know. And yeah, I think it's come across the way that I wanted it to, for sure.
I respect that, man. I respect
Yeah.
you going there and like opening up with that as well, because it is true. I think like there's something that yearns inside that we obviously don't feel has been created. That's why we're creating it, to express what others have created, but in our way. So that's
Yeah.
why I always feel like, you know, going back to just do what's cool or follow your taste, like that's the only true thing that you can do. Because if you're not, you might be a fad or what have you, but you know, you're not answering your true calling or your true creative call and gift. And I think it's like more that you chip away at it, the more that I'm constantly in this, like sometimes the mushrooms help as well, but like I'm constantly I'm constantly in this veil of creativity now. And honestly, brother, I just feel so enlightened and blessed that I almost feel like I'm sat down watching telly, and I'm like, I started watching that on Netflix. Will Ferrell's done a new like Eurovision thing, and I was like, oh.
Yeah. We watched that the other night, actually. It's pretty
so
good.
so I
Yeah.
started watching it, right, and then I saw it was 2 hours long, which I thought, whoa, like come on, man, not even Anchorman's 2 hours long. Not if you played it 3 times, it won't make 2 hours. But I was like, right, I'm gonna watch it, and then I felt I was cheating myself because I wanted to switch off. But I was like, this isn't really hitting. And also, I want people to be watching my Netflix shows, so I better get creating. And I just feel like
Yeah.
cold now. I feel like I'm like on a nice wave.
Yeah, right. Well, that's good. I mean, I think that always means that you're like, you know, you have your input output sort of situation, and you kind of go through like a period of like absorbing stuff, and then, you know, you go through like the point of like outputting. I mean, some people kind of might do that all at the same time. But I always find, you know, like what might, you know, trigger sort of a vibe or anything like that is, yeah, it's very, it can be very sort of bizarre, but, yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I was smashing, Blink 182 like a couple of weeks ago because it just felt really nostalgic, you know. And I bought a car like a week ago, and so we've been like going on drives and stuff, which is really fun. But it's like a late '90s kind of car, which is funny. So
So it fits
it's
in with
like
listening to them.
it just reminds me of the type of car that like parents had when I was like very little. Do you remember those Volvos where you can sit in the back and face backwards?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's kind of like that. It's like a proper like soccer mum car. But it's good. It's like it's pretty fun. And actually it was pretty funny because when I bought it, there's like a CD stacker in the back of it. And I pulled the CD stacker out, and there's like a Jack Johnson CD,
Yeah.
and like Joss Stone, and like all of this kind of like early like 2000s music. And so I've just been listening to that, and like hence probably the Eric Clapton Unplugged album. And it's just it's kind of like I like the music, but it's also funny. You know, like there's a humor to it, and like man, comedy and music, that we could talk about that all day, because that to me is like that's one of the most fascinating things, because I love comedy, like I love stand-up comedy, and I literally write jokes in my notes on my phone for this made up stand-up set that I'm never gonna do.
Why don't you do it? You're in LA, do it.
Yeah.
You got the what's it called? The Improv Club.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of they're obviously not happening at the moment. But,
yeah, fair.
But yeah, maybe I might like I mean, if I go up and just get booed, I'm okay with that. But I like stand up is like, that's the hardest, because it's like the flow and the rhythm and everything. It's like every single word you have to like choose it. You've got to get your timing right. And it's really similar to music, but it's like also completely different. And it's like, going back to that Seinfeld thing, he says like every comedian loves music and wants to be a musician. And he's like, and every musician thinks they're funny. which I thought was pretty good. Yeah, so what were we talking about? Yeah, we're just talking about like music and rhythm and stuff like that. I'm always really fascinated about that, you know, and like how inspiring that is. Yeah.
You know, one thing for me is the cadence of like when I'm up on stage and learning that less is more. But I learned a lot of less is more through songwriters. There's a lot of, you know, like Mike Skinner, for example. I like that dude's just my hero, and Alex Turner, and you know, Yannis from Foles. He's got a good wit. Like, there's a lot of like that era of like songwriters that came through that write with a certain wit that I like that, and I like. There's in Spanish Sahara, there's a line when he goes, "Wipe you clean with my dirty hands," and it just switches the, you know, it's what, like 6 words is that, and it already paints such a massive picture. And I was like, right, I want to do that more with comedy. So yeah, music, the way that songwriters write. KP, Mr. Kevin Parker, he's inspired us, you know. He's inspired me. So I take a lot off how people write with their songs, with my comedy. And I also, I try to put
you love music. I mean, like, you live and you breathe music, and it's like, even if it's like you're not like actively sort of directly taking inspiration from it, it's like it's so like it's in you, and so that's just gonna come through like in your stand-up sets and stuff, you know.
I try. Sorry to cut you. I try write as many like song lyric punchlines in there as well.
Yeah.
So that's my own little like kicks, and then sometimes I'll go on a tangent and I'll like put like, say, like 3 or 4 Daft Punk song lyrics in, where, you know, just in the build up of a joke, he's got nothing to do with it, just to see if like a few people like, is he like, so it's like music head in jokes inside the actual material. People coming up later like, did you get like 4 like Daft Punk songs? And they're like, yes, mate, well played. We're having a Jack Daniels, we're celebrating that. Good spot, mate.
That's funny. That's funny. Just your own little like in joke.
Yeah. But then I get in my own like head.
Keep it funny for you.
Yeah, not 100%. But then like sometimes like I'll try like the one extra and it'll go too far. Like, I'll wheel it back a bit. But yeah, man, nice. It's good. I was meant to be out in LA, you know, because I was gonna do Burning Man, and then I was gonna go LA, do the comedy circuit, and then fly New York. But once it's all lifted and I'm back touring, I'm definitely gonna come through, man.
Oh, sweet. Well,
you'll have to go to an open mic.
Yeah, 100%. I'll open for you.
Yeah, I'd take that.
Actually, that's not a good idea, because I'll definitely just clear the room. I'll go on after, so that there's still people there.
I tell you, I think Jack would be good at stand-up. I keep telling him this every time the rare opportunity gets to be able to speak to him.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely funny.
He's got a real peculiar sense of humor.
Well, the two of us used to like, we'd sit up and just try and like write joke. It was so funny. Like, we were obsessed. I think Jagwar in general, that band, Jono as well, just like comedy obsessed. We all had like our different heroes, and we all had our like found our different things. And it was weird. It was like we were more competitive about trying to make each other laugh and like find jokes on the internet, you know, whether it was like, you know, something just completely like random, like, you know, an animal doing something funny, or like listen to this like stand up, or even, you know, that sort of search for profundity, you know. I think obviously Chappelle at the moment is, you know, just kind of went Super Saiyan like a couple of weeks ago. And he said some really cool stuff. And I mean, I felt like it resonated. Some people sort of had a bit of a problem with it, but I thought it was pretty sound, you know. I
I
really loved it. And it was weird. He was talking about like literally one of the most heavy conversations that you could really ever talk about, but he actually still kind of managed to have comedic moments. I like, you know what I'm talking, the
Yeah,
846 thing.
completely. Because
Yeah.
what it felt like is like, you know, what I was on about with the song lyrics almost as my own like get out joke. It was like he threw an Azealia Banks like joking for his own banter, and it were almost like he was doing stuff like that. But
There was one
the
bit where he just like, he's talking about something and then he just goes, "This isn't funny at all." And everyone like erupts into laughter just to break the tension, because he's talking about, you know, obviously very hectic stuff. It's great. I
but
loved it.
I also found that one especially, like as a connoisseur, you could see how his writing process is. So you know, he gave the example of the earthquake and
Yeah.
give the length of time in the earthquake, and
Mm-hmm.
then it was like I've noticed him do that in previous ones before, but because this was so short format and it wasn't as like layered with like long detailed stories, it was more, this is the point, this is the example, so you get the point. And that's very much his like blueprint of comedy, but I've never seen it as stripped back as how it was last time. So it was really enlightening to see how he went at it. I'm the UK Dave Chappelle. I'm gonna go on record and say that, like, I am, man. I can't wait for you boys to see it. I remember when we were in, I come to see you in Manchester and went to the bar next door. We were all sat upstairs, like on like the roof terrace or what have you. And I was chatting to you about your music, and you just all like, "No, tell us some joke." No, I was saying I want to be your tour DJ. He was like,
Yeah.
"No, you're gonna be. You can come on tour with us and do stand up, but you can't be the DJ."
Yeah.
But you just wanted to hear about the comedy, man. I was really like humbled by that. I really was.
Yeah, man.
I generally can't wait for you all to come see it.
It would be cool that, like, I mean, even going back to Dave Chappelle, like, I don't understand why bands don't and like stand-up comedians don't do more stuff together. You know, like
Yeah,
as like, I feel like, I mean, first of all, yeah, I'm definitely coming and watching one of your shows. Definitely, whenever, you know, whenever that's possible. But then, yeah, also, I just sort of feel like there's going to be so many rules are going to change, you know, about, I mean, I think the whole world has just changed, you know, like, and, you know, on social levels and on like, yeah, just like literally society, I think it's totally just had a reset. And COVID's obviously been an absolute sort of tragedy, but it's also acted in like a very catalytic sort of way. And you know, you sort of think of things like cause and effect, you know, and like I think the effect of Corona is that like everyone's just like evaluated the value of life, like, and the choice of things, right down to like people deciding they're not going to spend like 5 days a week
in an
in
office.
fucking traffic if they don't need to, you
Mm.
know. And like, I mean, a lot of people think that once sort of normalcy like returns, because here in LA, it's like, it's still like, we're still locking down, like, so, but there, you know, a lot of people are saying even when things kind of return to normalcy, that most people won't like be commuting 5 days a week. Like, that's just not ever going to really happen again, especially, and like, you know, it's like the death of the office and like all
It's
that kind of
huge,
shit.
that. It's huge, that,
Well,
isn't it?
I think it, like, you know, it just sort of like represents maybe like the value people have on their time
The
and their
quality of
life,
life.
you know. And I think that, you know, also ties in with like other things as well. So people just going, you know what, I'm actually sick of this. Like, I'm sick of life being this way, you know. And that's cool. And you know, I really sort of enjoyed in a way, or I, you know, I take a lot of strength and seeing that sort of that evolution, you know. And I think even from like a live point of view and the way people decide they're going to seek entertainment, I think is going to change as well. You know, like maybe, and it's ironic saying this on Instagram, but I think maybe the social media stuff might kind of like recede a little bit, and people might actually try and spend less time on screens. You know, especially if your work is going to start requiring it of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
if you've got to go on Zoom, you're not gonna
right.
then.
Yeah. Then it's like, okay, sweet. I want some like actual human interaction now.
Yeah.
Because I feel like what actually happened, weirdly, is that your like main principal human reaction was for your work, and then for your like socializing and your pleasure, it was like virtual. And it should totally be the opposite. You know, like you should, if you're doing work or things that pay your bills or whatever, I mean, fucking like that can be the virtual. And then it's all about, you know, getting close with people and like, you know, the affection, you know, like the sort of communal affection, you know, that I want to see more of that. I think there's going to be lots of group hugs, hopefully.
Yeah,
Like,
just socially distanced hugs at first, but then just every like meeting that the Prime Minister has, Johnson to go like, oh, you're 1 meter closer, and you can like step closer and closer until you actually can. That'd be quite funny. But you used the word there, reset, and I've been asking a lot of people on my Loose Lips chats, is this pause or reset? And I'm happy you said that it's reset. So I definitely think it's reset, and I think that what COVID's done is it's been an equalizer. So, you know, for example, people as a conversation starter may use the weather or they may use sport as a way in. Like this, everybody can speak about, and obviously as well, coming through it, touch wood for everybody, you know, who has and stuff, like it's one of those that it's we should take courage and strength. Like this is one of the craziest times in history, and I think there should be that empathy towards people for not seeing loved ones for a long time or having to be in lockdown. And we've all handled this situation in our own way, but we've all seen it through to the other side. And I think that's what the equalizer when it comes to like people embracing quality of life and doing things the other way of like maybe being at home via Zoom, working from home and stuff. It's because they want to spend time with the family. They want to catch up with the friends. This chunk of time feels like it's just gone on for so long that it feels longer than the time it is, and the time it is even long. So it'll be more so when you get to see his loved ones, it'll be like, it won't be taken for granted as much.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, it'll be like next year will be an interesting year because, you know, one would hope that there'll be like a little bit of reprieve. At the same time, I think that obviously it's, you know, it is a tragedy for sure. You know, that's just, there's no two ways of looking at it. You know, that it just is. But maybe, you know, next year 2021 could be just you know, the sort of polar opposite of this. You know, could just be an incredible year for a lot of reasons. You know, the Olympics might be back on again. Glastonbury will be back on.
Yes.
You know, Glastonbury. I can't believe Glastonbury got cancelled. I definitely, yeah, felt very nostalgic about that. You know, there's lots of stuff coming up around it. You know,
Mate, that part stage set in 2004, you said, honestly, these words will forever live with me. It was raining, and you went, as George Harrison said, all things must pass.
Yeah.
And then the rain just started shifting, and then it just started, you were like Jesus up there. It was like as if you just parted the seas. And the thing is, I just got in as well, because I'd managed to get in for free. And so I plugged it in. And then I thought you boys were on the Friday, and I could only get down on the Saturday, so I was gutted. And then I was like, oh, well, never mind. And I got in probably about 3-4 o'clock. You get in, a few beers and what have you, you know, get into the vibe. And everyone's like, oh, you coming with? We're going to a park to see Jagwar. I was like, they were on yesterday. Like, nah, they're on in about 10 minutes. Mate, I Usain bolted it quicker than I've ever run. Got right to the front. And just the energy of that gig was just
that
special.
Was fun.
Special.
That show, I remember, because it was like we played the first time we played the year before, and that was like I didn't really know what to expect. And then the second year it was like, all right,
Yeah.
like let's do this, you know, like.
And the
And
momentum as well, I bet, of Howling in that year as well, to between
what's
John Peel's stage set to like the Park stage set, the momentum of Howling as well, you'd have been well ready for it.
Yeah, no, it was a vibe. It was a total vibe. And I always remember like good Jagwar shows because the vibe beforehand is always feels like really telepathic. Like we're all very much like on the same level. You know, Jack's in a good vibe, Jono's in a good vibe, and we're not like one of those bands that does like like you know huddles and like all of that sort of shit. It's a little bit more kind of actually we normally have our own sort of space before we go on, but there's still like this kind of connection, like the force. I think the force was very strong that day, and so we were sort of feeling it, and it was a really fun show. And I remember feeling so stoked that like you know, despite the fact that it was pouring with rain, that everyone was still kind of there, you know. And so I thought, okay, well, if you guys are willing to just stand in the rain for us, we've got to fucking give it, you know. We got to bring it because, you know, I'm dry, so like it's like I'm gonna sweat it out and get wet, you know. So yeah, that was fun. I kind of can't remember. I see photos and then I sort of it jogs my memory. But yeah, I remember feeling it was pretty special. And I remember, I think Lana Del Rey was like on at the same time, or she just like was just finishing or just starting. And I was like, I wanted to watch Lana Del Rey play because I really like her songs. But yeah, and I remember thinking, oh, no one's going to be there to watch us because she's playing and like it's raining. And then there was like this huge crowd. So. Yeah, it was great. And I remember seeing you in there. So
Yeah.
I can always see. Yeah, I think you had like a poncho on or something.
But I had a green feather duster.
Yeah.
I was just going crazy with a feather duster.
Yeah, nice. So
So,
good.
you know, there's 3 minutes left of the chat because
Yeah.
Insta like counts us down. So, do you feel you got to play the second album of Jagwar enough? Like, was it felt it came out, you toured it, but then obviously due to complications and stuff, it didn't happen. So, is there still a pining to play it back? Is there still a pining to?
Well, we like. I mean, you sort of live the records like even before they come out. And I think yeah, there's definitely like there's still vibe in the tunes, but I don't, you know, once I think especially with Jagwar, it's like once you put the tunes out, like they're the crowds, like then it's not, you know, and so you just you play the songs that people vibe on, and you kind of have to have that attitude in a way. It's like if the Stones are still stoked playing Satisfaction, like you have to be stoked playing, you know, your songs that people vibe on. So, and there was yeah, like Obi-Wan was a vibe, and I think Loose Ends was kind of like that was like they always had like a good sort of response from the crowd. So I think yeah, that like they've always like got potential, you know. And but I always, you know, I always liked playing. I always liked playing the shows. But yeah, towards, you know, when things were like stop start, that was getting a little bit kind of falling out of rhythm. You know what I mean? It was always a bit tricky.
Well,
Yeah.
there's 30 seconds, and I said my art of a good middleman is to. I'm going to bring Jagwar back. That's what I'm going to do, right?
Okay.
So John O said, this is literally, I've got 30 seconds to get this in. I want you like, viewing it. John O said, for it to be a Jagwar song, technically, it requires Gab's vocals on it. So, if there is a song to be produced and your vocals are on it that John O's made, could this be the resurgence of Jagwar?
I don't know. I can't give an answer. If the feeling is right, maybe. Yeah.
I have this theory, and I've got to go literally in 20 seconds, right? When people say don't know, it means no. When people say not sure, it's generally not sure. And when people say maybe, it means yes. So when you said don't know, I was like, oh no, but then you came back with maybe. And that is the vibe, my brother. That is the vibe. It's going to be a yes. Someday it's going to happen. Maybe 2021. But I know you've got your own project as well, and I'm vibing with it hard as well, brother. So I've got to shoot literally in 10 seconds. So great chat. Thank you as always.
Man.
Big love to Mel as well. And we'll catch up anyway away from chat and just have a chat.
Yeah, for sure.
Peace.